Thanks. My name's Kevin. I'm really proud to be at the Merit Institute. I'm grateful for my colleagues and for Angela's leadership. And I just want to give you guys a really light touch on how we approach the question of how we can impact the world for the better through our research. This is very like my visual depiction of how we think about our work. The core of everything we do is our scientific research. But from there, we move out. And there's three ways I just very briefly mentioned today. The way we extend our impact is through domestic policy work, international capacity building, and then very important work we do with student mentoring. So scientific research has to be the core of everything that we do. And we feel and look like any other academic in this regard. We innovate, we collaborate broadly, both across institutions and disciplines, and then we publish those results in high impact journals. But the defining characteristic of Merit, of myself and my colleagues, is these publications, even if they're in great journals, the grants we get, even if they're great grant center awards, whatever you get, those are intermediate steps. It's what we do next that really matters and what defines who we are and what we do. In terms of our domestic policy work, I'm just going to show you some examples here. I apologize for the wordy slide, but it's a little bit different than people are used to. So on the left here, I'm showing some of the methods that we use for our domestic policy work, again, based on our scientific research. And then I'll show you on the right what's happened in the last 18 months or so with impact. So we do policy development, implementation, evaluation from start to finish. We help develop new policy tools. We do traditional, what you might consider advocacy work. We do congressional testimony, written comments, oral comments, amicus briefs. I think everyone knows this on policy work, the real decisions don't happen in meetings. So we do a lot of on the side meetings with agency staff to assess their real needs and to help find out what information they need to make the best decisions possible. We do professional service on advisory committees for international organizations and domestic organizations. And then I personally have some direct rulemaking responsibilities, which is a really nice way to get both more experience for myself and to contribute back to the policy process. So what do these methods result in? We have many things we're proud of. This is just some of the more recent ones. Our recommendation for wildland fire research was included in President Biden's 2022 budget. When you read our language and the budget's language, they almost took it word for word. Legislative language that I wrote was included in House and Senate bills on environmental justice. We improved the social cost of carbon estimates used by federal agencies. So anytime the U.S. is going to evaluate prospective climate policy, they're using our numbers, and we're proud of that contribution. And then we really changed how air quality impacts are starting to be considered in local transportation funding decisions, and that goes in part to my role on having direct rulemaking responsibilities. So we're proud of this, and this is typically how we take on our domestic policy efforts. Let me just very briefly mention our efforts internationally. So we have a very similar goal internationally to do domestically, but there's one important difference, which the work is much slower. And the reason the work is slower is we don't want to go in and do everything. We want to go in and work side by side and train our counterparts in these locations for how they can do it long after we leave. So it's not a swoop in and solve a problem. It's come in hand by hand, assess their needs, and then provide some training so they can have some sustainable skills moving forward. This is some partnerships, locations of partnerships we've had in the last few years. We're particularly proud of some of the work we did in Mexico City, and then we're taking lessons learned there and applying it other places in Latin America. I won't go into the details, but that's the only point I would make is it's important to go slow. It's important to take the time to do training because you're only going to be there a few years. Those civil servants, those government partners, they're going to be there for many years after you're gone. And then lastly, I want to put on even footing our work with students. We take this serious. Before we have a student come work with us, we always carefully evaluate if they come work with us, will it really help them where they're going in their career? And we tailor their training, we tailor their experience towards meeting their own professional goals. I'll just mention a few folks. We've had a few Fulbright scholars both come to our program and leave from our program. Casper Lant, we first met when I did a stint in NYU Shanghai, and then he received a Fulbright award. Nusser, he was a PhD student from Morocco. He came on a Fulbright scholarship. He spent last year with us. The bottom right, we took a group of graduate students. Not only did they have great research projects they had, but we were able to take them in country and have them make presentations to government officials and see the fruits of their research. So I take a lot of pride in this, and I'm proud that Merit offers the opportunity here at NYU to give students these opportunities. Real quickly before I pass it off to Meredith, I just want to give a small sense of the funding. Some of this work is difficult to fund, so we have to kind of patchwork it a little bit. Last year we had a few awards from NASA that look a little more traditional, but we also get a little piece. We had money from EDF last year, a little contract from the World Health Organization. It's a little bit tiring, but that gives us the flexibility to do this work. Anyway, that's all I have. Thank you.